Well, we're all pretty familiar with the headlines, right? Declining birth rates, aging populations, shrinking societies. Usually, we're quick to blame economics or maybe work-life balance. But what if we looked at this through a completely different, almost purely metaphysical lens? Today's explainer explores a totally unique, highly spiritual perspective on family. We're going to dive into a fascinating breakdown of why having children might not just be biology, but actually a profound spiritual journey. Our explainer today is based on excerpts from a book called How to Grasp Happiness, specifically focusing on Chapter 5, which posits that raising children is a wonderful, even sacred duty. Now, right off the bat, I want to be absolutely clear about something. The author presents some very specific metaphysical and sociological perspectives here. My goal today isn't to take a side or tell you what to believe. We're just here to objectively unpack these concepts for you. We're going to explore the text's claims about reincarnation, karma, gender roles, and how the author literally ties these spiritual ideas directly to today's low birth rate. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the explainer. We'll be covering souls and spiritual bonds, hidden obstacles to childbirth, the family as a microcosm of society, motherhood and societal vitality, and finally, true gifted education. Section 1. Souls and spiritual bonds. According to the text, we need to completely shift our perspective away from mere biology. So the author introduces this concept of a soul plan. And the premise here is actually pretty fascinating. It suggests that a child is not just a blank slate created from scratch by their parents. Instead, children are already fully formed independent souls living in the spiritual realm. And get this, according to the text, these souls actually choose their parents. Yeah, they come down to earth specifically for what the author calls soul training and spiritual growth. So the family home? It's basically a training ground that the soul has actively selected for its own evolution. Which leads us directly to a crucial quote from the source. Children are independent souls. They are not the property of their parents. Because these souls are on their own predetermined journey, the author argues that parents really need to let go of this idea of ownership. You aren't molding a piece of property. Instead, you're taking on the role of a spiritual guide for a soul that's been entrusted to your care. The text absolutely insists that parents must step up and take responsibility as spiritual educators. Section 2. Hidden obstacles to childbirth. So why exactly are so many people struggling to have children today? Well, the text frames this as both a physical and a spiritual crisis. The source divides these obstacles up quite distinctly. On the physical side of things, the author points a finger straight at media-driven beauty standards and extreme dieting. The argument here is that this kind of physiological stress just makes conception physically harder, and that maintaining a natural body weight is simply more conducive to bearing children. But then, the text goes incredibly deep into the spiritual side. The author posits that past life karma creates these unseen roadblocks. Furthermore, the text makes a highly specific and very traditional claim regarding abortions. It argues that these severely disrupt the spiritual reincarnation system. According to this view, scheduled souls are essentially sent back to the spiritual realm, which creates a massive backlog in unfulfilled pre-birth agreements. And the author points to this as a hidden metaphysical reason behind our declining birth rates and the rise in unmarried adults. Section 3. The microcosm of society. Now, moving away from the purely metaphysical, the text shifts over to a highly practical, structural ideal for the family unit. And that ideal revolves around this number right here, 2. The author enthusiastically advocates that families should really aim to have a minimum of 2 children, ideally a boy and a girl. Now, the text definitely acknowledges the very real modern economic pressures we all know about, like the crazy high cost of apartments and the total lack of space in big cities. But it insists that overcoming these hurdles to have at least 2 children is absolutely vital for a child's development. And this brilliantly illustrates the author's core metaphor that a multi-child home essentially acts as a microcosm of society. Think about it. When you have siblings, especially of different genders, the text argues it naturally fosters critical social skills. It teaches adaptability, mostly because, well, you have to share space. It encourages what the author calls friendly rivalry, which pushes children to grow and improve through healthy competition. And importantly, within traditional structures, it instills the order of seniority, basically learning how to interact with people who are older and younger than you. A single child, the text warns, kind of misses out on this built-in societal training ground. Section 4. Motherhood and societal vitality. So how do these individual families actually impact the entire nation? Well, the text offers a highly traditional remedy to our macro-level demographic crisis. The author argues that societal vitality fundamentally depends on women embracing what the text describes as a noble mission. The source posits that modern society has encouraged young women to abandon the absolutely crucial role of raising children in favor of focusing on their careers. Now, while the author does acknowledge that a small percentage of women are truly meant for the corporate world, the text makes the very traditional argument that for the vast majority, their absolute highest calling is to create and nurture the next generation. According to this framework, a society can only really maintain its energy and its future if this specific mission is completely prioritized. Section 5. True Gifted Education. Okay, so once these souls are actually born, how should they be taught? Well, the author offers a really sharp critique of our current academic system. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the clear dichotomy the author creates here. On one side, we have standard education. We're talking cram schools, endless exam prep, just memorizing facts. The text argues this only leads to superficial self-satisfaction for the student and, parental pride for the parents. But look over on the other side at true gifted education. This isn't about passing a math test. It's entirely focused on character building and what the author calls moral education. The ultimate goal, according to the source, isn't to create someone who is just book smart, but to actually raise virtuous individuals who possess the moral compass required to actively contribute to and eventually lead society in a positive direction. To achieve this, the text leans heavily on a traditional proverb: the soul of a 3-year-old lasts until 100. Basically, the author argues that this kind of emotional and moral education absolutely cannot wait until high school. It has to begin incredibly early, like right during the toddler years. Because the child is an independent soul, their moral foundation is being set almost immediately. If you miss this window, the text warns, literally all the academic cramming in the world is not going to make up for a lack of deeply instilled virtue. So what does this all mean? The crucial point is that this source material offers a radically different way to look at population decline. It takes concepts like past life karma, pre-birth soul plans, and highly traditional gender and family roles and blends them into a holistic explanation for exactly why societies are shrinking and what should be done about it. It moves the conversation completely away from things like tax incentives and places it firmly into the realm of the spiritual. Which leaves us with a totally fascinating final thought. How do traditional and spiritual philosophies actually intersect with our modern demographic crises? Regardless of where you might stand on the metaphysical claims, it for sure challenges us to think about the deeply ingrained cultural and spiritual values that ultimately shape our future. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the deeper layers behind those daily headlines.